Your hair may seem healthy when you brush it, style it, or run your fingers through it, but beneath the surface, a silent enemy could be sabotaging every follicle on your scalp. Scalp inflammation is not just an irritation, it's a direct attack on the roots of your hair, quietly weakening them until they stop growing altogether. Today, we're going to uncover the hidden warning signs your scalp is sending before it's too late. Recognizing them early can mean the difference between strong, thick hair and slow, irreversible thinning. Sign 1. Persistent itching or burning sensation. A scalp that itches constantly or feels like it's burning isn't just dry, it's inflamed. Inflammation triggers a cascade of reactions, including increased oil production, micro tears in the skin, and stress on hair follicles. Ignoring this signal allows the inflammation to continue silently, gradually weakening your follicles and causing breakage from the root. Sign 2. Redness or flaky patches. Redness, blotchy patches, or scaling are often dismissed as dandruff or minor irritation, but they're the scalp screaming that your immune system is in overdrive. Chronic inflammation shrinks hair follicles over time, slowing down hair growth and making follicles more prone to permanent damage. Sign 3. Unexplained hair shedding. Losing a few hairs daily is normal, but when shedding spikes without a clear reason, it's often a symptom of underlying inflammation. The scalp's response to inflammation is to divert resources from growth to defense, starving follicles and accelerating hair loss. Conclusion and call to action. Your scalp is speaking to you, but most people ignore it until it's too late. Every tingle, every patch, every extra strand on your pillow is a signal that your follicles are under attack. Take action now. Examine your scalp carefully, address inflammation proactively, and make lifestyle changes that nourish your hair at the root. Don't wait for visible thinning to shock you. Listen to your scalp. Act decisively and protect the vitality and strength of every hair follicle you have. Imagine running your fingers through your hair and feeling that relentless itch or that subtle, almost electric burning sensation on your scalp. At first, it seems minor, easy to ignore, just a dry spot, maybe a reaction to a new shampoo. But what if that small discomfort is actually the earliest alarm bell your body is sounding about a much bigger problem? Persistent itching or burning is not just a nuisance. It is a direct signal that your scalp is inflamed, and every moment you dismiss it, your hair follicles are under silent attack. This isn't about surface irritation. Think deeper. Inflammation begins at the cellular level, where your immune system detects a threat, even a minor one, and reacts aggressively. Blood flow to the area increases. Immune cells swarm and chemical mediators flood the tissue. That's why your scalp feels hot, tingly, or sensitive. You're feeling the body's defensive machinery in action. But here's the catch. This defense mechanism, when triggered continuously, becomes destructive. The follicles, which are delicate microruptures responsible for growing every single hair strand, are squeezed, stressed, and starved for nutrients. You might not see hair fall immediately, but under the surface, follicles are slowly weakening, their growth cycles disrupted. Every scratch, every brush over that inflamed area compounds the problem, creating micro tears and tiny breaks in the protective scalp barrier. Imagine it like a fire smoldering beneath a carpet. You don't see the flames yet, but the damage is spreading quietly, relentlessly. The triggers can be deceptively every day. Environmental stressors like pollution, UV exposure, or harsh weather combined with chemical-laden hair products, poor diet, or hormonal imbalances all contribute to this inflammatory response. And here's a critical insight most people overlook. Inflammation isn't always painful. That mild, persistent itch might feel trivial, but it's a biochemical storm at work. Every time you ignore it, you're allowing oxidative stress and inflammatory cytokines to attack the follicular cells. Even subtle behaviors, scratching lightly, wearing tight hairstyles, or not rinsing shampoo properly, amplify the irritation, giving the inflammation more fuel. Now picture this. Each hair follicle is like a small factory. Inflammation slows production, weakens the output, and eventually shuts down the assembly line. You might think it's just an itch, but that it is the early warning system telling you something is very wrong. The sooner you notice, understand, and act, the better chance you have of preserving hair strength, density, and growth. The scalp communicates through sensations first, itching, tingling, burning, and if you fail to listen, those messages escalate into visible signs of damage, hair shedding, and thinning. This is where awareness and prompt intervention become your most powerful tools. Persistent itching or burning is the silent scream your scalp sends. Subtle, insidious, and often dismissed, but it carries a critical message about the health of your follicles and the future of your hair. Have you ever caught a glimpse of your scalp in the mirror and noticed areas that look redder than usual, blotchy, or even flaky, and thought, it's just dandruff or my scalp is dry? That small visual cue could be far more serious than a cosmetic concern. Redness, scaling, and uneven patches are not random. They are the body's distress signals, revealing that your scalp is under a constant state of inflammation. You might not feel pain yet, but beneath the surface, an invisible war is being waged at the follicular level, silently weakening the roots of your hair. Those red or flaky patches are like warning lights on a dashboard. Ignoring them is like driving a car with the engine overheating. You only notice the damage after it's too late. Inflammation is not something that appears overnight. It develops gradually, often triggered by a combination of factors that may seem ordinary. Stress, poor nutrition, harsh hair products, environmental pollutants, or even underlying hormonal imbalances. Each of these factors provokes an immune response in the scalp. Blood vessels expand to deliver immune cells to the site, creating the visible redness, while dead skin cells accumulate and form flakes, signaling that your scalp is struggling to maintain its natural balance. It's a biochemical storm with cytoines and inflammatory mediators wreaking havoc on the follicular environment, slowing hair growth and compromising follicle integrity. What most people miss is that these visual signs are not superficial. They are indicators of internal dysfunction. The follicles themselves are microscopic powerhouses, and when surrounded by chronically inflamed tissue, their efficiency diminishes. Nutrients are diverted away from growth to fight inflammation, and the delicate hair-producing cells begin to shrink over time. This can lead to miniaturized follicles, weak hair strands, and eventually visible thinning. You may think that brushing off flakes or using an anti-dandruff shampoo is enough, but these measures treat only the surface symptoms. They do nothing to address the underlying inflammation that is gradually killing your follicles. Even small exposures like sunburn, chemical treatments, or friction from tight hairstyles can intensify the redness and scaling, creating a vicious cycle. Your scalp becomes more sensitive, more reactive, and every minor insult now compounds the damage. You may notice that your hair feels less resilient, more brittle, or that new growth is slower. Those subtle visual cues, the redness, the blotches, the flaky patches, are essentially your follicles waving red flags, begging for intervention. Recognizing these early signs is critical because they provide a window of opportunity to stop damage before hair loss accelerates and follicle health deteriorates further. Redness and flaky patches may seem minor, even trivial at first glance, but they are the scalp's silent alarm system, signaling chronic inflammation that threatens the very foundation of healthy hair growth. Have you ever noticed an unusual amount of hair on your pillow in the morning, or clumps of strands collecting in the shower drain, and wondered why is this happening all of a sudden? That unexpected hair shedding is far more than a cosmetic inconvenience. It's a silent cry from your scalp, signaling that inflammation is already undermining your hair follicles. Hair doesn't just fall randomly. Each strand is connected to a tiny but complex structure called a follicle. And when these follicles are stressed, inflamed, or starved of nutrients, they stop functioning optimally. Shedding is often the first visible sign of internal distress, a warning that the environment supporting your hair growth is compromised. Inflammation is a sneaky culprit because it doesn't always come with pain or redness at first. It creeps in silently, triggered by anything from poor diet, stress, and hormonal imbalances to harsh hair products or environmental toxins. Once inflammation sets in, it disrupts the delicate cycle of hair growth. Hair follicles operate on a precise rhythm, growing, resting, and shedding naturally. Inflammatory signals confuse this rhythm, forcing follicles into a premature resting phase and causing hair to fall out faster than it can be replaced. You might see increased shedding, yet feel perfectly fine otherwise. This is why many people overlook the problem until thinning becomes noticeable. Every strand that falls is a direct result of your scalp's resources being diverted away from growth. When inflammation is present, the body prioritizes defense over maintenance. Follicles are deprived of essential nutrients, oxygen, and energy needed to produce strong, healthy hair. Even small, repeated inflammatory episodes compound this effect. What starts as a minor increase in shedding can accelerate over time, turning what seems like a temporary annoyance into a chronic problem. Those extra strands on your brush, your pillow, or in the shower are actually warning signals, telling you that the scalp environment is hostile and that follicles are under siege. It gets worse. The longer inflammation continues unchecked, the more the follicles shrink, producing thinner and weaker hair with each growth cycle. Subtle behaviors like aggressive brushing, scratching an itchy scalp, or using hot styling tools only amplify the shedding. And because this process is gradual, it's easy to dismiss as normal aging or seasonal hair loss, when in reality, the follicles are slowly losing their ability to sustain robust growth. The alarming part is that once follicles are severely damaged, regrowth can be slow or even impossible, making early detection critical. Unexplained hair shedding is not random and it's never trivial. It is the most visible manifestation of an invisible process, a signal that chronic inflammation is quietly sabotaging your hair from the roots. Every lost strand is a message your scalp is sending. If you pay attention early, you can act to protect the follicles before the damage becomes permanent. Have you ever noticed that a new shampoo, conditioner, or hair treatment stings your scalp or leaves it feeling tight, irritated, or sensitive and dismissed it as normal? That sensation is more than a fleeting annoyance. It's your scalp signaling that its natural barrier is compromised and that inflammation is already taking hold. When the scalp is healthy, it acts as a resilient shield, regulating moisture, protecting follicles, and maintaining a balanced microbiome. But when that barrier is weakened, even everyday products can trigger reactions that escalate inflammation, silently stressing your follicles and undermining hair growth at the root. Think about it. Every time a product burns, tingles, or causes redness, your scalp is responding to chemical or environmental stressors as though they are threats. The immune system springs into action, sending inflammatory cells to the area, increasing blood flow, and releasing chemical mediators. This response may feel minor at first, just a mild sting or a brief itch, but beneath the surface, follicles are being deprived of stability, and the delicate cellular structures responsible for producing hair are under constant stress. The more frequently your scalp reacts, the more it becomes hypersensitive, creating a feedback loop where even previously safe products can cause irritation. The triggers can be deceptively subtle. Sulfates, parabens, alcohol-based solutions, synthetic fragrances, and even excessive heat styling can compromise the scalp's barrier, stripping natural oils and allowing inflammatory agents to penetrate deeper into the tissue. Environmental factors like pollution or UV exposure amplify the problem, stressing the scalp's defense mechanisms further. Over time, this chronic irritation begins to affect follicle health. Hair may feel finer, weaker, or less resilient, and growth slows as follicles shift into a stressed, low-output state. It's not just the products themselves. It's the cumulative effect of repeated exposure. A tight hairstyle, frequent coloring, chemical treatments, or aggressive brushing can all magnify sensitivity, making follicles more vulnerable to inflammation. Each micro-insult, each chemical or mechanical stress contributes to a hostile scalp environment where follicles must struggle just to survive rather than thrive. What seems like minor discomfort is actually an early warning sign, signaling that action is needed to restore barrier integrity and reduce inflammatory triggers before more serious follicular damage occurs. Every time your scalp reacts to a product, it is effectively waving a red flag. It cannot tolerate the stress being applied, and the follicles underneath are quietly suffering. Recognizing the sensitivity is crucial because it gives you a chance to intervene early, correct your hair care routine, and strengthen the natural defenses of your scalp, ensuring that inflammation does not progress to irreversible damage that threatens your hair density and vitality. Have you ever picked up a strand of your own hair and noticed that it snaps easily, feels brittle, or looks dull and lifeless? That fragile, weak hair is more than just a cosmetic concern. It's a visible symptom of a deeper problem unfolding at the follicular level. Dry, brittle hair and frequent breakage are often caused by chronic scalp inflammation, which quietly sabotages the follicles that produce strong, healthy strands. Many people assume that breakage is simply the result of heat styling, chemical treatments, or environmental exposure. But in reality, inflammation is often the hidden culprit, weakening hair from the root before it ever reaches the surface. When the scalp is inflamed, the tiny hair-producing factories, your follicles, cannot function optimally. They are deprived of critical nutrients, oxygen, and growth signals. Because the body prioritizes fighting inflammation over sustaining hair production, this subtle nutrient deprivation compromises the structural integrity of each hair strand, leaving it fragile, thin, and prone to snapping. You might notice hair breaking near the ends or along the midshaft, giving the impression that your hair is falling out, when in truth, the follicles are under stress and producing weaker hair from the outset. Even everyday behaviors that seem harmless can amplify this problem. Brushing roughly, overwashing, applying heat or chemical treatments, or wearing tight hairstyles increases tension and friction, further stressing already inflamed follicles. The combination of internal inflammation and external stress creates a perfect storm for breakage, making hair look lifeless, uneven, and thinner over time. And the tricky part is that the damage often begins long before you see visible signs of thinning. By the time your hair appears fragile, your follicles have already been compromised at a cellular level, producing weaker strands with each growth cycle. Environmental factors also play a role. Sun exposure, pollution, harsh water, and seasonal dryness can intensify inflammation, stripping protective oils from the scalp and leaving hair more vulnerable. Even subtle nutrient deficiencies, hormonal fluctuations, or chronic stress can exacerbate follicular weakness, accelerating the rate at which hair becomes brittle and breaks. What seems like a surface-level cosmetic problem is actually a reflection of deep-seated inflammation interfering with the follicle's ability to produce strong, resilient hair. Dry, brittle hair and breakage are not just random issues, they are a warning system. Each snapping strand is a message from your scalp, indicating that follicles are under assault and struggling to maintain healthy production. If ignored, the cycle worsens, and what begins as minor fragility can evolve into significant thinning and hair loss because follicles weakened by inflammation are unable to sustain long-term hair growth. Have you ever glanced in the mirror and noticed a small patch where your hair seems thinner or an area on your scalp where the density just isn't what it used to be? It's easy to dismiss these subtle changes as normal aging or just a temporary hair fluctuation, but visible patches of thinning or balding are often the most telling sign that your scalp is under chronic inflammatory stress. These areas are not random. They are the first visible evidence that the follicles beneath the surface are struggling, shrinking, and losing their ability to produce strong, healthy hair. When inflammation persists, it doesn't just irritate the scalp. It systematically attacks the very foundation of hair growth, leaving patches where follicles are dormant or severely weakened. Think of each follicle as a tiny factory, meticulously producing hair strand by strand. When inflammation sets in, the factory slows production, reallocates resources to repair tissue rather than feed growth, and eventually shrinks in size. This miniaturization process results in thinner, weaker hair or complete cessation of growth in localized areas, which is why you see those early patches of thinning. What's alarming is that the damage starts long before the patches are noticeable. The scalp may appear normal for months, while follicles are silently deteriorating, which makes early recognition of other subtle signs like itching, burning, or shedding crucial. Several factors accelerate the development of these patches. Chronic exposure to chemical treatments, harsh hair care products, UV rays, or even tight hairstyles can exacerbate inflammation, causing follicles to lose resilience faster. Nutritional deficiencies, stress, and hormonal imbalances further weaken follicular function, making it harder for hair to maintain density and vitality. Even minor repeated insults like scratching an itchy scalp, overbrushing, or using hot styling tools compound the stress, turning what might have been a temporary slowdown in growth into persistent thinning. These visible patches are essentially a warning system from your scalp. The follicles are struggling to sustain normal growth cycles and are giving up in the most vulnerable areas first, often along the temples, crown, or hairline. It's a gradual, insidious process. The hair may feel thinner, look less shiny, and shed more easily before a clear patch even forms. Many people miss these early visual cues because the changes are subtle, but once a patch becomes noticeable, the follicles in that area have already been compromised, and reversing the process becomes increasingly difficult. Visible thinning or balding is not merely a cosmetic concern. It's a clear reflection of chronic follicular stress and inflammatory damage. Each thinning patch is a map showing which follicles are fighting to survive and which are failing under constant inflammatory pressure, highlighting the urgent need to recognize the problem early and intervene before permanent follicle loss occurs.